Well, isn't that amazing? Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll come out of the darkness. I'll come out of the darkness soon enough. It's like 2:30 p.m. or something. Somewhere. It's 2:30 somewhere. Tonight's topic. By tonight, I just mean 6 p.m. where I'm at. Tonight's topic is the oppression of the rich minority. The minority of rich people that are being oppressed against. It's a very sad and dark topic. That's why metaphorically I'm filming this in the dark. Because it's a dark subject. Very sad. Very sad. It's an issue that we're all very familiar with. Minorities historically have always been oppressed. All minorities are by definition oppressed because they're the minority, and if you look at like a math equation or just look at the numbers themselves, if you're one and there are 99 people against you, just think of how oppressive that is. I mean, you're one, there's one of you for every 99 other people. One against 99. Who can win with odds like that? Who can win? It's just amazing if you think about it. If you just think about any group of people that 1% than 1%, and there's 99+% of people that are not you, it's kind of amazing. It's a sad form of oppression against the minority of rich people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the different ways that rich people are oppressed against. Okay? We're going to start with some of the more obvious ones. One of the most obvious being rich people are oppressed against by beggars. Okay? Beggars of all kinds. Beggars are people that just simply ask for money, whether it be through policy, through taxes, through friendly requests, family. It doesn't matter. The list can just keep going on and on and on. You have something, everybody else doesn't have what you have, and everybody wants what you have. Well, that is a scary place to have to live. I mean, it just is. If everybody wants to have what you have, just think of the paranoia. Think of the mental distress. The kind of life that a rich person lives is tragic. I mean, if anybody deserves a break, it's rich people. Really. But that's just, beggars is just one of countless numbers of ways that rich people are oppressed against. I just want to start with a simple one. Okay? Another way that rich people are oppressed against, okay, so rich people, especially exorbitantly rich people, let's say they have a Bentley. Let's say they have one of the, I actually don't know what the highest model Tesla, but one of those, like Model 3 or I don't know, whatever the highest level is. Any vehicle that's worth more than a house. Okay, that's my point. They're driving this around 45 miles an hour. Imagine your house driving around 60 miles an hour. How secure would you feel? Okay? I know that some people out there are like, well, gosh, if something happens to their house value level of a vehicle, they can just buy another one. Well, that's fine, but what about their emotional attachment to that vehicle. I mean, it's not like it's worth nothing, okay? And if they lose that something, that's like a tragedy. It's like a tragedy. It's just so desperately sad. The thing that's worth more than most people's houses, they're driving around 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, 135 miles an hour, depending on where they're at. Of course, it's nerve-wracking, and that level of stress is something that very few people would be able to stomach. So, you know, in a lot of ways, we could say that rich people are heroes. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Because they're the minority, because there are few of them compared to all the billions of people on this planet that aren't rich. You know, they're like the heroes of the planet. They have something that everybody wishes they had, and there's literally no way to figure out, like, just like all other minorities, it's literally not their fault. At least you can hear me. I know you can barely see me. It's not their fault that they're rich, okay? Like, they didn't ask for that. No minority asks or even tries to be a minority. You understand what I'm saying? Like, think of any people group, any categorization of humans, and think of a minority of categorization, and just every time, 100% of the time, undeniably, unquestionably, all minorities, they don't choose to be minorities. They just are minorities, okay? So when it comes to rich people, as oppressed as they have been for thousands and thousands of years, you have to, like, they need a break. Like, they just, you got to give them some credit for being heroes, for doing what they do. They didn't ask for all that money. They just have it, okay? It's not their fault. And more importantly than anything else, there's nothing wrong with having money, okay? Obviously, because everybody wants to have money. So the fact that people, this is what doesn't make sense. I hope you're following me. What doesn't make sense is that everybody criticizes and speaks so negatively about the rich. That's another element of their oppression, is just how much negative perception there is of rich people. Okay, there's so much negativity, right? So much hatred, so much envy, greed. It just goes on and on. So, but here's my point. The point is, with all that negativity, you still have almost the all-encompassing, overwhelming majority of the majority wants money. What is everybody going to work to get? Money. They put their money in the banks. Why would they do that? If people didn't want money, they would just, like, throw it on the street. They would just, I mean, I would say just spend it right away, but that's accumulating assets, right? So, so the point is, people love wealth, but they hate the wealthy. Are you getting the, I mean, this is hypocrisy to the nth degree. This is just so obvious, but it's just staring you in the face. The hypocrisy is everywhere. It's amazing. If you just think about it. So you think about how oppressed rich people are, how they have what other people want, Okay, they, in some cases, it's weird. They've got so much hatred, right? But they're also extremely popular because it's like people love the money, but they hate the person. Isn't that weird? They love the money, but they hate the person. I just think that seems backwards. I mean, I wish it was the other way around. I wish it was the other way around. Hate the money and love the person. That would be great, but nobody wants to do that. They'd rather just hate on the person because they have the money, and they don't have the money, so they hate the person because they're the one with it. So, okay. So there's lots of different ways to discuss the oppression of the rich. Okay, we discussed one of the ways. Let's think about it in a different way. We've got security issues. So they have all this stuff that they have to protect because everybody wants what they have. I talked about the emotional distress that causes them to constantly be in a protective mode of their belongings. But it's not just that. They have to also protect their intelligence, right? So even though it's not their fault that they're rich, some allegedly, I mean, I know this is weird because we talked about way back, we talked about how people don't necessarily change. Change is a weird word, and not to be punny with the word change in the money talk, but supposedly some people start out not wealthy and somehow get wealthy. I don't understand how that works, but any which way, these wealthy people, they have to protect what is inside of their brain, not just what's in their pocketbook. Because sometimes, supposedly, wealthy people will have wealth because of their skills. I don't understand that exactly, because I pretty much believe that no minority ever chooses to be a minority. But I guess hypothetically, it could be that some people try to be rich and actually become rich. I think that's appropriation, which is, that just think about it. It could be just fiscal appropriation. So, which is really backwards, because you think, why would somebody maybe that's all we need to know. The fact that everybody hates rich people means that it would never be possible for somebody to even want to be rich, even though everything I just said has everything to do with people wanting to be rich. I mean, there's a lot of contradictions here, which means that this conversation is so close to love as the premise. I don't even know. I obviously don't know. But when we talk about contradictions, and according to a lot of my previous videos, you'll understand that contradictions don't exist. A and not A are the same thing. I mean, just think about it. They sound the same. A and A, they both have A in them. A and not A. Not is just an operator that may or may not mean something at the same time. So if you understand quantum states and quantum mechanics, quantum physics and quantum reality, just put quantum in front of it, and you can make anything mean anything, and you can make anything mean nothing, all at the same time. If you don't understand, it's just because you don't understand the concept of quantum. Okay? So do some research. If you're confused, just do some research, and you'll figure it out eventually. So this is a complete side note because it's literally 7 days away. I wonder if Saturnalia has anything to do with satire. like my videos. So, in other news, talking about the oppression of the rich. So you've got a rich person. They've got all this money. Okay? Other people don't have as much money. And what kind of life can a rich person expect to live? Well, here's a list of some things that a rich person can expect to experience. First of all, everybody's going to assume that they can afford. Let me phrase. I'm gonna turn it around. It's a little different than that. It's not just that everybody can assume that they can afford something. It's not just that. It's actually, there's something a little more deep, a little more important. As a rich person that's in the minority, okay, again, the oppressed rich people, okay, they live the kind of life where when people look at them, they assume that because they have money, they should just do whatever, right? What kind of life is it to live that just because of who you are, people automatically think you should do what they think you should do just because of who you are? Like, if that's not oppression, guys, if that's not oppression, I don't know what is. I obviously don't have a clue what oppression is if that's not it, okay? You're living your life, you're just trying to do you, and then everybody around you thinks just because of who you are, you're obligated to just do whatever everybody thinks you should do just because of who you are, okay? There's something inherently evil about that. That's oppression. That's hatred towards the minority of the rich. Am I making my point yet? Are you starting to understand what I'm saying? I hope you are. Okay. This is a sad topic. I know it's heavy, it's deep, it's dark. Goes in line with the time of day, the lack of sunshine. I mean, okay, perfect. I'm glad you mentioned that. Again, I always know what you're thinking. So, the rich also get blamed. So they get blamed for all sorts of things, all kinds of crimes. It always ends up being that the minorities are blamed for the majority of events. Please, somebody help. I know what you're thinking. You're like, it's called the rule of Pareto. I'm extremely familiar. Here's where that falls apart, though. The rule of Pareto indicates a 20%. While that's still a majority, the type of rich that I'm describing as the minority, as I premised at the beginning of the video, has nothing to do with the top 20%. Okay? I'm discussing the top 1% or less. Okay? So there's a big difference. There's a huge difference. Okay? And that's where the rule of Pareto, it doesn't apply here. It doesn't apply at all. All right. So, back to the blame game. Okay? Just because of who they are, they're being blamed for all sorts of crimes, evil in the world. If something bad happens, it's probably some rich guy that did it. Okay? And there's a lot of different kinds of rich people. It's non-discriminatory, except for the money. That's the common denominator. So, if there's an earthquake, okay? If there's an earthquake somewhere, it's probably some rich guy. It's his fault because of his fracking. Sorry, there's no T there. Because of his fracking corporation, that he's making hundreds of millions of dollars for but he's the one to blame for this earthquake on the other side of the planet. Do you have any idea how big this planet is? And he's the one getting blamed from the other side of the planet. Obviously, it was that guy, right? Yeah, of course. No. The fact that he's being blamed is exclusively because it's perfect evidence of the oppression of the rich minority. Okay. No, I'm tumbling over my words a little bit. Okay, I'm passionate about this subject. As a non-rich person, I feel as though that I may be able to be a voice for those whom you'd other blame for rich-splaining. Okay, they can't be heard. They need somebody that's not rich to be a voice for them. Okay, because I'm the kind of person that I don't believe that people should be oppressed. Okay, I'm gonna speak to subjects about why there should not be oppression. Okay, at least tonight's topic is related to that. Okay, at the very least, it's the least I could do. Okay, to give them at least one video about their oppression. They deserve at least that much. Okay, so they're getting blamed for the weather, right? The rich people. So there's probably lightning somewhere. There's always lightning somewhere on the planet. There's probably a rich person behind that, at least to blame, or that's being blamed is what I mean. Okay. Let's see if it's what's something else that people are really upset about. The cost of things. This is an excellent example. I think that this is probably the top 3 best examples. So we could go with gasoline. There's tons of people that are like that. Just wow, gasoline is so expensive. It's the rich people's fault. Is it? They always get blamed. Are you seeing it? It's just over and over and over again. Every problem in your life was caused by a rich person. Obviously, it's all their fault. Or there might be another answer. There's something you might be missing. Okay? Like, maybe it's your oppression of the rich that's causing the problems. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Think about it. Sounds controversial to me too. But at least think about it. Consider it as a possibility. So the cost of anything, you're like, this thing, whatever it is, this phone, this car, this computer, this heart transplant, whatever. There's a common theme of things costing a lot. And guess who gets blamed? Rich people. Poor people don't get blamed. Poor people are in the majority. Living on the high horse. I mean, when there's 99% of the entire world's population, like, everybody loves to be in the majority. Fit in, right? And that's yet another reason why the rich are oppressed, is because they don't fit in. You get what I'm saying? They don't fit in. Nobody likes to live that kind of life where you don't fit in anywhere. You try to have a conversation with somebody, they find out you have money, and then they can't be your friend anymore. That's oppression, guys. It's oppression. It's rude. It's just rude. It's just rude. And it starts with you. The only person that's going to be able to make a change in this world for the better is you. So how are you going to fix this issue? You want to complain about rich people. You want to complain and oppress against this minority. Well, guess what, guys? You are the only person that can do something about this. And what do you think the solution is? What do you think the solution is? Well, no, think about it. Think about it. There is a solution. There's never a dead end. If you're always looking for a solution, there are no dead ends. Okay? That's a phrase that I'm not going to abandon. I like that one. Okay, that's on my happy list. It's always a solution. Might not be a good one. There's always a solution. Okay? So, the oppression of the rich. How else are they oppressed, guys? Help me out. Help me out. How else are the rich oppressed against? Let's think. I mean, people hate them, as I discussed, they hate them for the price of things. What about leadership? Typically governments and leaders of companies are not poor people. They're not in the majority. So more often than not, people in leadership in general, especially, of course, the ones that exist within the 1%, they're some of the most highly scrutinized, hated on, victimized people on the planet. They can't say anything without being just completely picked apart, analyzed. Again, scrutinized is a good word for what happens to these rich minorities. Okay, and I don't mean to pluralize that. I mean individuals within the minority. That's what I mean when I say minorities. So yeah, it's just, if you think about it and try to break it down, you start to see, wow, that isn't the kind of life that I want to live. That does seem desperately sad, to be in the minority of the rich people. Okay, so I know exactly. The other aspect of being in this minority is just the facts, the statistics related to riches. So what is their actual condition of living? Standards of living they're vastly different all over the world. But among the top 1% of all people, in regards to finances, the top 1% richest people that are in the rich minority, their standard of living, we can't even relate to. It doesn't even look human. That's how oppressed they are. It doesn't even look human. It's downright scary, guys. They consume things you can't even imagine. I don't even know the names and the words for the things that they have to eat because of systemic oppression against the rich. Okay, they're fed these things that you and I wouldn't recognize as food. That's sad. Okay, they have relationships with people and things, again, you wouldn't even imagine. Like some of the things that, maybe not all. I mean, maybe not all, because I'm not trying to perpetuate an already horrible problem. I don't want to make matters worse, but I mean, as a consequence, we'll put it that way, as a consequence of their oppression, there is some really unusual behaviors. I'm trying to say it as kindly as possible, but within the minority of the wealthy, the rich minority, guys, their behavior in a lot of ways, again, it's not their fault. It's not their fault, okay? It's part of systemic oppression that causes all of these problems. But it's sad. It's just sad. If you do a little research, okay? Do a little late night reading. Look at some of the things that the wealthiest people on this planet have done with their actions. Just not accomplished, because that obviously exists too. They accomplish things that could be perceived as good, possibly, but I'm referring to some of the actions that just, It's sad. And if you put your mind in the proper context, understand that it's just a result of oppression, guys. It's a consequence of systemic oppression against the rich. You have compassion towards them, as we should have with all minorities of any kind. It's such a simple concept. If you're having a problem with this, rewatch, think it through. This is worth thinking about. So it's worth thinking about. So, just to sum up, because I want there to be a pretty conclusive or concise anecdotal sort of thing to be able to conclude on. The rich minority or less, most rich people in the world, I'm describing the type of life they have to live, they're subjugated to. So it is obviously a form of slavery. They have almost no freedom of will whatsoever. Their life is dictated to them by their constituents, and guys, it's oppression. It's oppression. There's a lot more to say about this. This will not be the last time that I bring up the oppression of the rich. Okay, they need our thoughts. They need our good feelings to be sent their way. Thoughts and feelings, guys. Thoughts and feelings. Because it's, again, everybody wants to be that, and nobody wants to be that. It's a conundrum that I was trying to help you understand as close to love, but it's got that other word in there too, the H word. Oh, I'm just kidding. It's hate. I'm not trying to filter here. Not trying to filter here. It's hate. Hate is the other word. People love and hate the rich. It's amazing. I hear exactly what you're saying. That could be indicative of progress. The fact that people love and hate the rich. The main premise of my video, of course, is the oppression side and all the hatred that the rich experience, and how nobody would ever want to live that kind of life. Nobody wants that. Here's the most important thing, and I want you to hear this. I'll say it twice, just in case there's some glitchiness. There's always some glitchiness with the tubes, okay? You cannot separate the two. I'll say it again. You cannot separate the two. You can't separate the two. I'll repeat it. It's fine. And what I mean is, you can't have the aspects of richness that people are seeking and hoping for, and also not have the things that people hate about towards, and it goes hand in hand with the oppression. So if you hypothetically could access the top 1% of richness, you would absolutely, in turn, you would absolutely enter into the system of systemic oppression. You would become part of the system that was getting oppressed against by entering into the top 1%. It's unavoidable. The phrase that I know you're the cake and eat it too. I know. And it couldn't be more true with this. So for all of you that think that you might be able to have something without the consequences, that doesn't make any sense. Everything has a result. Everything has an equal or opposite reaction. And in this case, it's always an opposite reaction. So the pros of having what you think you might get for whatever pro that might be, there will always be a negative reaction due to systemic oppression of richness. Okay? And that's not going anywhere, ever. Unfortunately, call me a cynic. Okay, call me a cynic. I'm not saying it's right. Again, I am not saying it's right or okay. I'm not saying that. I don't think that it is. I just also don't think that it's going anywhere. I don't know how we could do anything about it. I don't. You tell me. Okay, and that's how I'll finish this video. If anybody knows how we could solve systemic oppression against the rich, as I have described it and laid it out and helped you understand, if somebody has a solution, I challenge you to post a video reply. I challenge you to come up with a good solution. Have a good life. I'll see you next time.